Margaret, I'll come right back to you.
The cessation of hostilities that the U.S. and Russia are now working to establish or reestablish, particularly in Aleppo, will it involve not attacking al-Nusra?
Will it involve not attacking al-Nusra? No. Al-Nusra, the Secretary talked about this. They are not party to the cessation. They are a recognized terrorist organization by the UN and are not party to the cessation.
Sir, last week, U.S. military spokesman Colonel Steve Warren said that it's primarily al-Nusra who holds Aleppo. I know that the U.S. and Russia have been working to delineate terrorists from rebels. How is that work going?
So a couple of points there. As I think I got asked this question too, and as I said at the time, we still, and I think you heard the Secretary talk about it today. I mean, Aleppo is a very mixed, fluid, dynamic environment, and we have seen examples where groups like al-Nusra and Daesh intermingle themselves with others so as to help protect themselves from attack. So it's very fluid, very dynamic. Aleppo remains that way. Your second question, in terms of how it's going, I think, again, I'd point you back to what the Secretary just said. I mean, we continue to work very closely with the Russians towards a better application of the cessation of hostilities and better compliance throughout the country. That's why these teams are meeting today, and hopefully later today, hopefully, we'll be able to lay out with more detail exactly what the progress is that's being made in terms of reaffirming the cessation in additional places throughout the country.
So the FSA put out a statement saying, we, the armed groups from across Syria, will form a single bloc. Any offensive that takes place in an area where our units are present will be regarded as an attack against all the units throughout the Syrian territory, and we reserve the right to respond to it. 37 military units endorsed the statement. Given the fact that some of these units are in Aleppo and they are not known to be difficult to separate from al-Nusra, what do you think about their position that if any one of them is attacked in Aleppo, that the whole cessation of hostilities across Syria is out the window?
I haven't seen the comments, but let me just, no, I'm not disputing that. I haven't seen it, but I'm happy to address the issue. Their frustration is understandable, given the constant attacks that they've been under by the regime, particularly in Aleppo. But you heard the Secretary say himself in his opening comments that we want all parties, and that means all parties, to abide by the cessation of hostilities and to not look for opportunity to escalate the violence either there or elsewhere throughout the country. We want everybody to abide by it, and that's why he went to Geneva the last couple of days. That's why he talked so intently with Foreign Minister Lavrov yesterday, and it's why our teams, U.S. and Russian teams, are right now working on trying to get this cessation reaffirmed in other places.
Do you support this particular position expressed by the FSA?
I think I would just point you back to what the Secretary said himself, which is we want all parties, everybody, to abide by the cessation of hostilities. And when we are able to come to an agreement on some additional modalities, to agree to that. And as the Secretary said, we, the United States, we have a responsibility here too, because we do have influence over some groups, and he is going to hold us to account. And his expectation is that we will use that influence in an appropriate way on those opposition groups that we have influence on. Just like our expectation is that the Russians will use their influence to appropriately shape and mold the conduct and behavior of the Assad regime.
Just one more. The FSA said that they support the decision of the High Negotiations Committee to withdraw from the Geneva talks. What is the U.S. communicating to the FSA with regard to this?
Well, we obviously want the talks to continue, and our message has been consistent and the same, that we want to see the UN-led peace talks resume and to achieve some success here. As the Secretary said, when we were in Moscow, we agreed with the Russian government that we would set 1 August as the time frame to do that. So we obviously want to see that succeed. Our message has been the same to the opposition, the HNC, and all opposition groups. We want to see them back at the table. We also recognize their frustration. We recognize the concerns that they expressed during this last round, and why, out of frustration, they stopped talking, because the regime had been violating the cessation so blatantly, so overtly, in particular in Aleppo. So there's obviously more work to be done here, but our message is exactly the same.